Everyone, welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. I'm Pierre, he's Chris, joining me as always to talk about fantasy football for week 3 and our must-start wide receivers. Again, our goal is always to help you win. Check out our must-start running backs as well. Before we get into that, a couple of items I want to mention. First of all, read the description below when you're done watching this video. There's some very helpful links there on how you can join us all season long. Join our Discord, support us on Patreon, and you'll get access to all sorts of things throughout the season and tools that we provide to help you win. All right, so the other thing is we're doing another giveaway this week, and we're going two giveaways in 1 week. So if you check out our must start running back video, where I did one there, you're gonna have to watch to figure out what that one is. But for here, let's do this. Let's give away a free t-shirt from Bear Clothing, one of our great sponsors. And we're going to give it away to whoever guesses correctly. So here's all you have to do. Leave a comment with your answer to the following question. What is the combined receiving yardage going to be for Tyreek Hill and Keenan Allen in the week 3 contest between the Chiefs and the Chargers? Expected to be a very high scoring game. So Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, 2 top receivers. What is their combined receiving yardage going to be? Leave an answer right here in this video. Comment below, and of course, follow Bear Clothing on Instagram, and then we will announce the winner after the week is over. All right, let's get down to business. Chris, you have a wide receiver that you think everybody must start this week.
Yes, Courtland, Sutton, baby. I hope you listened to me last week and started him against the Jags. I told you in week 1, wait a week, let's see how he looks. Week 2, I said unleash him. Well, guess what? From this point on, kind of like your Damian Harris, this guy is going to be an every week must start. 9 catches, 159 yards in the game, had a 36% target share. I know everybody was all excited about Tim Patrick. I mean, great. He got you a touchdown and he saved your day. But look, there's an alpha receiver on the Broncos. I've been talking about him all offseason, and it's Courtland Sutton. It's not Tim Patrick. It's not KJ Hamler. It's Courtland Sutton. And as for however long Jerry Jeudy is out, he is going to be a monster. And here's another thing I'll bet you didn't know. You know who leads the league in passing yards of over 20 yards? Passing attempts, of over 20 yards? It's Teddy Bridgewater. That's insanely good for Courtland Sutton because he's the big play alpha wide receiver. And I know KJ Hamler is the deep threat, but guess what? KJ Hamler has a big problem. He can't catch. Courtland Sutton is going to have another monster game this week. Jaguars defense last week, terrible. Well, guess what? The Jets defense, especially that secondary, might be even worse than that Jaguars defense. So if you drafted Courtland Sutton, in the 7th, 8th, 9th round of your fantasy draft and you rolled him out last week, just keep him in your lineup every single week from now, but especially this week against the Jets. Another monster week coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it's not too early for you to victory lap this one. You called it. He was going to be a great bargain in drafts. I mean, I know it's early, but so far, definitely looking the part. So, yeah, you got to keep Sutton in there every week. Now, guy, of course, I'm going to have in there every week, and so should you, is DK Metcalf. But a lot of people are disappointed because Tyler Lockett is going insane, which Tyler Lockett does at times. But you know what Tyler Lockett also does at times is disappear. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying is just because another guy is shining doesn't mean that the other is disappointing. Okay, so Metcalf actually tied with Lockett with 11 targets this past week. Wasn't as productive, right? Didn't break free downfield because of long coverage, because he's getting more attention from the defensive backs. But you know what? In week 3, it really won't matter because he's going against Minnesota, which is basically letting everybody break free down the field. Metcalf, I think, is going to feast this week. This is the week where you see him break out and start to catch up to Lockett. Honestly, they both could feast this week, but it's going to be one of those shootout type of games. And I feel like DK Metcalf is a guy that, of course, you want in your fantasy lineups everywhere. Also somebody that you can play in those DFS big game tournaments. He's kind of chalky, but I'm telling you, he's going to be worth it. This is going to be his breakout early in the season. All right, let's keep going. Give me another must-start wide receiver.
I'm going to go down a little bit. This is a guy, a veteran wide receiver who's also starting to look like, an every week must start, at least, a wide receiver 3 type must start, and that's Marvin Jones of the Jaguars. I know Trevor Lawrence has definitely struggled early on, but there's two good things here if you have Marvin Jones. Number one, Marvin Jones clearing away the number one receiver there in Jacksonville. 11 targets this past week, which is, I think, 7 more or 6 more than any other Jaguar wide receiver. And Trevor Lawrence is having to throw the ball a ton. I know he's not very efficient. I know he's missing a lot of passes, but they're always behind in games because that defense is so bad. So he's having to throw it a ton every game, and that's good for Marvin Jones. Now, again, because of that efficiency, Marvin Jones is never going to have those monster, top 5, top 10 weeks that you would get from guys like DK Metcalf or Courtland Sutton. But that's okay, because that's not what you need him as. As far as a wide receiver 3 goes, he has a ton of upside because, again, he's looking at 8, 9, 10 plus targets every single week as the Jaguars' number 1 wide receiver. So if you drafted him late in your draft and he's sitting there on your bench and you're not happy with the wide receiver you've been rolling out, just play Marvin Jones. He'll be more than good enough this week.
Yeah, Chenault's banged up. DJ Chark disappointed. Hardly was involved last week. So looks like Jones is the number 1 receiver there. You got to give a shout out to Jeremy. He was right on that one. All right, so Chris, this might surprise you, but I'm going to go with a guy that we usually are way off of, and that's Hollywood Brown. That's right, Marquise Brown of the Ravens. Just such a boom-bust guy, right? He'll show up and make a big play, and then he disappears, except lately all he's done is boom. This may surprise some people too, but dating back to week 12 of last season, he scored a touchdown in 7 of the last 8 games. And of course, his touchdowns are always long touchdowns. So over those past 8 games, he's averaged 4.8 receptions and 65 yards and a touchdown per game. That's not bad, all right? That's not bad at all. It's not like he's getting 2 catches a game. So you can say, well, he kind of touchdown dependent. Well, when you score a touchdown every game, I think it's okay, right? Now, am I guaranteeing a touchdown this week? No, of course I can't do that. I'm guaranteeing that he has a really good chance because he's going against Detroit, right? So I don't see how you can keep him on your bench any longer, but especially this week, you have to roll him out everywhere. So Hollywood Brown, we kind of have to take notice. I think the fact that Sammy Watkins is there, eventually Rashad Bateman will get there. Yeah, that scared us off of him. But right now, Marquise Brown is the number 1 receiver in Baltimore. And the fact that they're hurting at running back, well, they're leaning on Lamar Jackson a little bit more, not just with his legs, but also airing it out. And so far, it's working. So Hollywood Brown, you got to start him. All right, let's keep it going. Chris, give me another receiver that you like.
I'm going to go with Eagles rookie wide receiver Devonta Smith against Dallas. And I know it's easy to look at the numbers this weekend from the San Francisco game and think, oh, Jalen Hurts, he came back down to earth. Look at that. He's not very good. Well, if you watch the game, you'll realize that he had like a 60-yard touchdown pass that Jalen Reagor called back because Jalen Reagor stepped on the sidelines as he was running down the field on his route. And also that bomb to Quez Watkins, I'm not sure how Quez Watkins didn't score. I thought Quez Watkins was a lot faster than that, to be honest. That could have been, a 99-yard touchdown pass to Quez Watkins. So Jalen Hurts actually has been very, very good. And that was a tough San Francisco defense, right? Now they get Dallas, not a tough defense. And I know everybody expected that Chargers-Dallas game. I know I did. I played a lot of DFS tournaments where I had a lot of the Dallas and the Chargers game, and it didn't work out on this past Sunday, but I think that was an anomaly. I think this Philadelphia-Dallas game is going to be a high-scoring game. I know that Philly defense is pretty good, but guess what? So is the Dallas offense, right? We saw what they did against Tampa Bay. So I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, a lot of touchdowns on both sides, a lot of yardage on both sides, and Devonta Smith is clearly Jalen Hurts' number 1 targets. Yes, he'll throw it to Watkins, he'll throw it to Reagor, he'll throw it to the tight ends, but look at what's happened the first 2 weeks. Devonta Smith is the number 1 target there. So give me Jalen Hurts' number 1 target in what should be a shootout in week 3.
Yeah, Smith is clearly the number 1 guy there, like you said. And also it should be noticed that Zach Ertz might miss the game because of COVID. And so just more targets his way. I definitely like that pick. All right, so if you watched our waiver wire video, you noticed that the very first name mentioned was Rondale Moore of Arizona. And there's a reason for that. Led the team, very high scoring team in Arizona, if you haven't noticed. With 114 yards, he actually doubled DeAndre Hopkins' output, if you can believe it, in terms of yardage. A lot of that did come on that one big play, but he also caught 7 passes. He was one of the leading target getters, and you know what? I think he's asserting himself as the number 2 option. He'll never be number 1, of course, with Hopkins there. But, I mean, this is, if you haven't noticed, like I said, Arizona, Kyler Murray is making his case to be an MVP early in the season. Going to be finally the iteration of the air raid that we were expecting all these years. Well, it's been 2 years. But Rondale Moore, they drafted him for a reason. They're using him all over the formations. You know, he's working across, not just going deep. He's a guy who I think will keep getting targeted. And this week, not just a must add if he's available on your waiver wire, but a must start, because going against Jacksonville, I mean, who isn't a must start against Jacksonville these days? You know, I might mess around and even start Christian Kirk in one of these leagues. Well, maybe not that far, but still, Rondale Moore, I mean, you've got to be excited if you picked him up already. So I'm saying put him in your lineup. Don't wait. He might not go for 100 yards again, and that's okay, but he's got that floor that you love to see because Kyler Murray is just going off early in the season. All right, Chris, one more must start at the wide receiver position for week 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy who might seem like an obvious name, and that's A.J. Brown, but I've gotten a lot of questions about this guy, about whether people should be panicked about him, whether they should be worried about him. And I'm here to tell you, no, don't worry about it. I know it's been a bit of a slow start for A.J. Brown, but the targets are there. He has 17 targets through 2 weeks. Look, Tannehill has just played really, really bad the first 2 weeks, but I think everything gets better this weekend against Indianapolis. This secondary has allowed over 200 receiving yards in each of the first 2 games. So this is the game where A.J. Brown is going to bust out. Also, let's not forget Carson Wentz more than likely not going to play this week. So this should finally be a game where Tennessee has the ball plenty and can control the game more. So if you've been panicking about A.J. Brown, or you're worried that, hey, maybe he's going to be a bust, maybe he was a wasted, second round pick, whatever it might be, don't worry. This week, A.J. Brown comes out and reminds us all that he's the alpha number 1 wide receiver there in Tennessee. So give him another week. Keep him in your lineup. Don't worry about it. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he seemed a little out of it. He had that really bad drop down the field. It could have been a touchdown. And of course, Julio went off. But I mean, that's one of those guys you can't worry about. You should never be benching A.J. Brown, honestly, at this point. And so I'm going to come around and say, I think I was wrong on Jamar Chase. He looks ready for the NFL. Touchdown each of the first 2 games, going deep and being that deep threat that, well, that's what they envisioned when they drafted him for Joe Burrow. Now, is a little bit of a risk there because, again, he's not the number 1 guy in terms of target share. It's going to be T. Higgins going forward, but still, Chase has looked sharp, averaging 22 yards per reception. That's the type of upside you want in your lineup, period. But also, now you might be a little scared when you see Pittsburgh on the schedule, because I've talked about this before. Pittsburgh has one of the best defenses in the league, but heading into week 3 now, they're limping, right? There's 3 of their main guys on defense are injured. Not sure their status going into the week, but also, well, Pittsburgh has been susceptible, surprisingly so, to wide receivers. They've allowed over 200 receiving yards just to wideouts in each of the first 2 games. And we're talking about not, the scariest of wide receiver groups in, well, Las Vegas with the Raiders. So I don't know what the deal is, but Pittsburgh just doesn't look as sharp as they should be. And I think Jamar Chase is a high upside play. You know what? If Pittsburgh gets their act together, maybe Cincinnati is having to throw the ball more than they'd like because, well, they're going to clamp down on Joe Mixon. So I think you can roll out Chase. Of course, you roll out Higgins. Maybe even Boyd. You know what? Just start all the Bengals receivers because Tyler Boyd actually has the best individual matchup among all those cornerbacks he's going against. So I like Chase, though. I think that's a guy that you should definitely keep in your lineup this week. All right, those are our must starts at wide receiver. If you haven't already checked out, do our running back video for week 3. And I mentioned all that information in the description below. Take a minute, check it out, because we're trying to help you as many ways as possible with our live shows each weekend. And of course, through our Discord, where you can join the conversation all year long. All right, guys, good luck in week 3.